Hey guys, so welcome back to the channel. I wanted to record a video today, not really about anything specific in terms of a how-to. This is actually this is more of a concept. What I like about talking about principles or, ideas is that it's really generally applicable, right? So when I do like how-to videos or like specific videos on very narrow topics, that's obviously helpful for some people. But really, what I made this channel for is for people out there who can think for themselves, who are already creative, who have achieved a lot already, and are working on something. You know, whether it be your own business or a new project or something. And this is where these kinds of topics are really important because I'm going to talk about this idea of maximizing your assets in your business, and this is so generally applicable but really powerful. And I first stumbled upon this idea of maximizing your assets probably about 5 years ago now. I used to run a catering business, and we had all this equipment and gear and stuff, and it was a great business. It worked really well. This was pre-corona, by the way. We were super busy. We started out really slow, and we just built it up into a decent sized business, actually. Um, and one of the things in that business, there was one day when I was just sitting there doing the accounts and books and stuff, and I was just looking at all the assets that we had for the balance sheet, and I realized that yes, in the balance sheet there's all these items, like a stove or bits of equipment, just listing them out. But actually, the biggest asset that that business had was the kitchen itself, right? So we had this fully stocked kitchen, like a proper commercial kitchen with like really high quality ovens and stuff that we just bought, and kitchen benches and lots of storage and a huge cool room and lots of other bits and pieces. But that all combined, that asset of the commercial kitchen was something that when I looked at the schedule that we had, we were only really using it for about maybe 8, 9, maximum 10 hours a day. So we would get in there in the morning, and we would start pretty early, around 6 a.m., 7 a.m. And we would be done by something like 3 or 4, maybe 5 p.m., 6 days a week. So this kitchen was fully functional, but not used for the rest of the, let's call it 14 hours of the day, and pretty much never used on a Saturday. Saturday was our day off, basically. So I started doing some research at the time, and I stumbled upon this idea of just maximizing your assets. It's not a new idea. It's not like something that I've just come up with. It's very well known, but maybe it's something that you haven't heard of. So in that business, that kitchen could have been used for the other 14 hours. We didn't need it. We didn't have enough business, and the kind of business that we were doing, people didn't need food at catering at night, or in the middle of the night. But once I started doing some research, I realized that there was a lot of people out there who needed that kitchen at the exact opposite hours that we did. So, for example, we started getting inquiries from what was the biggest one? Of like food trucks. So food trucks would call us and say, "Hey, we don't have like a base of operations. We're just cooking out of our own kitchen at home and prepping stuff, and then we load it all into the truck, and then we go and sell the stuff. It'd be great if we could have a commercial kitchen like yours, especially in the evenings or super early in the morning, before you get in. Maybe we can rent the kitchen off you." We also had people doing like food stalls, market stalls, on the weekends, and they needed a kitchen like Thursday, Friday to prep, and really early Saturday morning to prep for their markets. So I started to really dive deep into this idea of like, okay, I've got the most important and most expensive asset in our business not being used most of the time. Maybe I can try to monetize it somehow. And you know what? In the beginning, when we were just a fledgling little business with not enough revenue to pay for expenses, and we were just kind of starting out, that idea really helped us out so much. I mean, it more than paid the bills. Essentially subletting our kitchen when we didn't need it, and it was amazing. It worked out so well, and we were in a great location too, which helped because a lot of people wanted kitchens in convenient locations. Um, so that made us so much revenue that that allowed us to grow our catering business a lot more comfortably. We would have had to borrow more money and do some other creative things to survive as long as we did, without applying this idea of maximizing our assets. And so once we started getting that going, that started to go really well, and we met some great people. And then about a year and a bit in to that business, we realized there's this whole storage area. This is example number two. We had this whole storage area now as part of our lease. It was all combined, and it was actually upstairs above the kitchen. And that whole area we were just using for storage. And it was super convenient, but it wasn't necessary. It was just more out of convenience that we were using it. And I started to look into the idea of actually renting it out, and and I started doing some research and posting some ads online to see if people were interested, and it turns out that they were. And I realized that wow, we've got this whole untapped asset just sitting above our heads, that we could actually use to help pay some more bills. And so we just did some minor kind of, just a lick of paint and bits and pieces like that, and it came up really well. And we just bought some kind of decent but cheap furniture, just to furnish it. And that's the what the market wanted, was furnished places. And yeah, we just started renting it out, and it just started making all this money for us, without us having to do much work. I remember it took me about 2 hours a week, maybe an hour and a half a week, just to check on them and just say hello and make sure they're okay and just do the accounts for it and stuff. But for the financial return we got, it was well worth it. And then we started doing the same thing with the storage we had out the back. So this particular lease had a whole kind of courtyard and loading dock and stuff out the back that just wouldn't use for the kind of work we were doing. We didn't need it, but a lot of other people did. And so we started renting that out as well, and it was amazing. At one point, especially in the beginning, we were making more money out of subletting this stuff than we were actually out of the catering business. And it allowed our business to grow in a way that we couldn't have before. And I want to emphasize this idea of just looking at the assets in your business. Have a look at what assets you have and how often you're using them. How what's their utilization rate. You could break it down as a percentage. So our utilization rate of our kitchen, for example, 10 hours out of 24 hours that you could potentially use it. It's something, I don't know, what's that, 40%, something like that, 38%. It wasn't being used a lot. And so, if you've got something that's being used, less than, I don't know, it's up to you, but less than 60% of the time, as a bit of a yardstick, maybe you can look into, and if you're willing to do it, you can look into trying to maximize those assets, especially if it doesn't get in the way of your primary business. And in some cases, it might actually complement your primary business. So think about it this way: when we started subletting parts of our kitchen out when we weren't using it, we came across a few people that wanted to make certain foods in there. And it's just so happened that some of the foods they were making, like desserts, for example, we didn't specialize in, but our customers wanted that. And so instead of us ordering in pre-made desserts or having to make it ourselves and not really being, a specialist in that area, we just teamed up with the people that were already making stuff in our kitchen, and we could just establish some sort of a menu and cost and stuff, and we would just buy goods off them, and actually boosted our business and supported them too. So this idea of applying this principle of the underutilization of assets, or maximizing the usage of your assets, is really powerful, and it's definitely not new. Um, just look at Airbnb Airbnb is a perfect example. It's exactly that. It is finding an underutilized asset. Initially, it was people's rooms in their houses, but now it's become whole houses, and there's whole businesses around it. But it's the same idea, right? It's just unlocking the value in the assets that you already have. So your cost base is low because presumably you've already got the asset, and it's mostly upside. Now, as with everything, there are risks involved. that you need to know about. I mean, the biggest risk for us, and it'll be different for you, but the biggest risk for us was we needed to sublet the place out to the right people, people that we could trust, people that preferably we knew, but if we didn't know them, we needed to get to know them and build a relationship and have that level of trust there. I installed cameras, so in all the public areas, so just so that we, if there was an issue, at least we have some evidence or just know what happened. Um, and also things like insurance. I had to do a bit of research on upping the insurance and making sure that compliance stuff was all okay. Um, and when I looked into that and did all the maths and checked it all out, it all made sense. So there are risks like that, right? So it's not something just want to jump into. You want to think about it and do your research and speak to the right people. So we spoke to lawyers, we spoke to a insurance broker to get the right insurance. I also had to factor in my time, so it wasn't just to get people in and just start charging the money. I was there a bit more than I usually was, just to say hello to them and just keep in touch with them and let them know that I was around. And the accounting side, there was a bit of paperwork involved, and drawing up contracts that protected both of us and that had all the rules in place. So it's not super simple, but you might have assets in your business that you can actually maximize, and the money you make is worth the effort. And that's something you'll have to work out for yourself. But just have a look at this idea. Like, try to see if you can apply this principle to your own business, or even your own life, but in particular in your own business, because I think there's a lot of unlocked value out there in businesses, both in Australia and around the world. And if it's not for you, then fair enough. I know people that, if they were in our situation, would not want to do what we did, and that's fine, because you need to sleep at night, right? So if it doesn't work for you, then that's fine. But just have a think about it. And I think when I started to really apply these principles, it really shifted my context around our assets. Um, and what I mean by that is I started to see our assets in a new way. Um, and the main thing that shifted for me was actually this idea that our assets aren't ours. You know, um, the assets that we have in our business are actually shared assets, and when I started to look at it that way, it kind of shifted my perspective, and new ideas and new things to try out and things to do started to open up because I could see things differently. So maybe that's helped you. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, or email me. But it made a profound difference for us. And you know what? That's something that, like I said, um, it allowed us to grow at a much more comfortable rate, and took a lot of the stress out of running a new business. The fact that we had extra cash flow coming in that could keep us afloat and buy us a bit of time to build our customer base made a huge difference. So reach out in the comments. Let me know what you think of this idea. Have you tried it before? Did it work? Did it not work? If you have any questions about my experience, let me know. I'm happy to answer. But I think there's some opportunity out there, and see how creative you can get with it. And I think what will really surprise you, if you are open to this idea, is just by putting ads out on all the regular stuff, Facebook, Gumtree, wherever. Just by putting ads out, you'll be really surprised at what kind of things come back. The food truck idea is something that would never have thought of. We were in the catering business. We knew people that were in the catering business. We knew that there were people out there who wanted to rent the kitchen, but we never would have thought of the food truck thing. And the food truck thing was amazing because their hours were exactly the opposite to ours. And I would never have seen that coming unless I had posted the ad and just put ourselves out there and see what came back. So yeah, interesting idea. Let me know what you think.